Hello and welcome to the Female Founder Friday podcast with me, Lindsay White. I'm passionate about helping female entrepreneurs be great leaders, build high-performing teams, and create inspiring workplace cultures through innovative talent programs and practices. Because when people feel like they belong at work, they deliver their very best and businesses thrive. The Female Founder Friday podcast is all about connecting with the most incredible female entrepreneurs to talk about their journey to creating their own business, the mistakes they've made along the way, and how they view their own leadership. And I'm challenging all of my guests this season to take my leadership style quiz. And during each episode, we'll be digging into their leadership style and how it impacts the way they lead in their life and their business. And if you're interested in learning more about your leadership style and want some of my top tips to help you lead more effectively, you can take the quiz right now. Just check out the show notes or head over to 𝐻𝒚𝐦𝒐𝒂𝒄𝒅 and click on the button at the top of the page that says Take the Quiz. Then you can share your results, connect with my guests, and join the conversation on Instagram by following me at @HighVoltLeadership. Awesome. Okay. I have with me this afternoon a really great guest. I'm excited to have this conversation with her because I know she has a great story. I've got Miss Tammy Cho with me today. Thank you so much for being here with me this afternoon.
Hey, Lindsay, so happy to be here.
I'm excited. Tammy and I have only recently connected. It's just been in the last few months. But it's funny, we keep popping up in the same places together. And I'm like, hey, is that you? And she's like, oh my gosh, you're here. So the connection is strong because we keep appearing in the same places together, which is so fun.
Yeah, it is. It's really interesting how the different parts are aligning, and now we're here together, getting to know each other even better.
Yes, I'm excited. So I know a little bit about your story and how you got to be a female founder, but I'm hoping you'll share a little bit more with us today on the podcast here.
Yeah, I love to, Lindsay. My story really started when I used to be a registered nurse, and I was at work one day and I started having heart palpitations and chest pain, and it was radiating up my jaw and down my arm, and I was like struggling to breathe.
Wow.
And that day I ended up being wheeled off to emergency in front of all my coworkers at work. And, leading up to that point, Lindsay, I kind of knew that I wasn't doing that well. I was struggling with concentration and all these things, but I couldn't get myself to let go. And from that place, like I got the doctor's note to take time off and all these things. However, it was a deeper place within me. I couldn't emotionally let go. And so that was like a big piece of my journey and learning about myself. And it really opened me up to realizing this place within myself in leadership within myself. I started to dive into personal development, obviously therapy and all these kind of different things. And it opened up myself into a place of realizing it wasn't from the mind. Once again, I had to confirm that for myself.
Right.
And then I ventured into energy work, and I started really, finding a lot of benefit with that in my healing. Because, on the background, it was that I struggled with depression, anxiety, and just chronically burning out. And from this place of doing energy work, I realized that when I stopped doing those things, what became of that was that I still struggled with the same things. So it really, the answer wasn't there. And so my story guided me into a deep emotional and spiritual healing within myself, which brought me to a place of, I do face and body reading. It's under psychosomatic therapy, which is a study of the body, mind, heart, soul.
Yeah.
And this really brought me into a deep alignment within myself, where that I was able to heal like depression, anxiety, and chronically burning out without any medications or anything.
Wow.
And it was coming to a deep power back within myself.
Wow.
And from this place, I was definitely called to do what I do as a body whisperer and a self-love embodiment guide. I really deeply come from a place of a deep emotional leadership and embodiment within myself that has transcribed not only in nursing and as I was on my journey,
right,
healing, growing, learning, standing up for myself, all these wonderful things, I realized that it was all about me not letting things in.
Oh.
And it was really about me not opening to receive it. I was essentially blocking everything out on many levels.
Wow.
And whether that's from healing to actually creating impact and abundance and receiving money and all these pieces of my life, it all came back to the same thing. And so I brought this all together in a way that is really highlighting the importance of matching this inner and outer alignment piece within ourselves.
Right.
Yeah. So that's kind of like where I came to be. Like,
I love it.
A bit of a long story, but it really, everything that happened for a reason.
100%. I honestly do believe that the universe is always conspiring for us, not against us. It's just sometimes we don't see that really big, beautiful picture in the moment. But your story really reminds me of the phrase that the body keeps the score, right? Your body knew maybe what you weren't ready to even consciously recognize or contemplate in a meaningful way, resulting in what sounds like a pretty dramatic health issue. I mean, when they wheel you off to the emergency room, that's big deal.
Yeah, it is a really big deal because I wasn't willing to really look within myself in many ways, Lindsay. And that's why I really value this, face analysis piece, because it really, our body speaks to our emotional history, things, our strengths or gifts, and what how we actually are on our inner world with the left side of our face, and how we show up on the outside world, the right side of our face, right? So I really feel very passionate about helping people see and understand themselves in this way, so that they could stop running away from themselves and their power, their gifts, and really shining that in a really beautiful way. And so that's definitely, my deep mission in this world, to help people with that.
That's very interesting. I'm super curious. How did you come to explore this face work piece? I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, everything sort of aligned, and actually it was my husband that told me about this. And at that time, I was a bit of a personal development junkie, really, Lindsay. And I would just dive into everything because a part of me was searching, a part of me wanted to always grow. That's one of my top values.
Yeah.
And I went to essentially a course, and it really laid out everything, how I was really yearning for something and how I was pushing it away. It was all laid out in my body, and if I was actually on purpose and even on direction with my purpose. And it just amazed me how this was all spoken through my body on a regular basis. And it's interesting because of my nursing background.
Sure.
Everything that happens to us at chronic diseases or health challenges, it actually matches exactly what is subconsciously in the way with how we choose to lead, for example. And so it's so, like, we hear about this body, mind, heart, soul alignment. Yeah. And it truly is being able to tap into these different parts. Otherwise, there's a part of us that always feels that something is missing and out of alignment, if you will.
I love that. And I really, of course, I resonate with the connection that you made to leadership, because leadership is an inside job. You have to lead yourself first. And if you are not consciously recognizing what you are, and you've talked about the things that you push away, or the things that you don't recognize, or the feelings that you can't express, all of that, how can you lead yourself effectively if you really are avoiding, I'll use that sort of bold word, avoiding all of those important pieces? And if you're not in alignment with your body and your heart and your mind and your soul, because being a great leader is really soul deep work, isn't it?
It is. And even like every day when I work with a client or I have a discovery call with something, everything that I'm not addressing in myself shows up on those calls.
Sure.
It's so interesting how it's like really, the universe is serving exactly what we need to know. We just need to be paying attention and come from a place of leadership once again. And intention, attention, all those lovely pieces. So I I definitely see again and again the value of that and the importance of being in alignment with all these different parts of us. So
awesome. And so I'm making the assumption here that through your own personal journey, you realized that nursing just was not going to serve you any further and made the transition to starting your own practice. How did that come about?
Yeah, I was doing nursing and I knew it wasn't my end all be all, but I wasn't sure what it was.
Yeah.
And it really, but I decided to follow my heart, like through all the healing and things like that. And I went to a retreat where I got a really strong download into my body, and also witnessed by what happened in the healing retreat all around me.
Yeah.
It really confirmed what I meant to do. And I had to take a step into the word of healing. And now I call myself more like a balance of a healer and a coach.
Yeah.
And it's like, it was really trusting because I didn't really know what that was all about initially. Yeah. And now I know I'm here to help someone embody their self-love and acceptance and open to receive who they really are, their authentic self, and be able to shine their gifts fully. And so that was, it's interesting how that naturally was all a part of me already. It was really me stepping out and receiving myself in many ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And becoming a nurse is not an easy journey. I mean, nurses are highly skilled, highly educated individuals. So, respect the fact that you probably spent many years learning how to become a nurse. And then to recognize that you needed to step into something different, that can be a tricky transition. But I love the way that you talk about how you were really guided to do that. And you really tuned in and really listened to what was really true for you.
Yeah, that was one of the most important things on my journey was really stepping into trust again and again, and recognizing that I am supported. I mean, that's where a lot of people fall, is that we're afraid of the unknown.
Yeah,
we're afraid of what ifs and things like that.
Yeah,
and the deeper we are trusting ourselves, right? And this is where I believe that's why it came up for me in the supportive style leadership. Is that when we feel fully supported and we know how to support ourselves deeply on all the body, mind, heart, soul levels, then everything lines and works.
Yeah.
And we create what we want naturally.
I love it.
Love
it. Well, Tammy just did a great segue because we're going to talk about her leadership style next, because she took my leadership style quiz. If you want to know what your leadership style is and you have not taken the quiz yet, you can check out the link in the show notes, or you can go to the website, highvoltageleadership.ca. There's a little orange button at the top of the page, and it says, ironically, take the quiz. And you can do that right now. The quiz takes just a few minutes. You're going to learn a little bit more about your leadership style and how that is impactful. And I'm also going to send you some of my top tips so that you can improve your leadership practice right now today. So Tammy, you already told us you are a supportive style of leader, which makes perfect sense based on the conversation we've just had. But tell us how that shows up for you, not just with you working with your clients, because clearly you're supportive in that space, but in terms of being a female founder and actually building and running a business, because I'm curious about that part as well.
Well, I think everyone got a sense that I have a very strong soul part of me.
Yes.
And so that is a big, important piece. I feel that it's bringing consciousness every day to my life, intention, and not just at the beginning of the day, but throughout the whole day, and to be creating what is it that I want to create that day, and then aligning all the different pieces of myself. Like, what is my mind saying? What are my emotions saying? Even to be attuned into what my subconscious is saying, so that I'm not sabotaging myself and I'm meeting it in the face. Yeah. Like, to me, that leadership piece within myself is recognizing that everything I want is already here, and it's a matter of me opening and receiving to it, and allowing it to actually come towards me. And just moving what is self-sabotaging, what I'm, the old identities and things like that are in the way.
Mm-hmm. And I
So for
think,
me, yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
well, I think, it's interesting because sometimes I work with a variety of female leaders in a variety of, different professions and capacities. And what struck me there is that it is some of that internal pieces, those saboteur, you talk about self-sabotage, the saboteurs that we actually don't recognize are even there at moments in time that can really trip us up in terms of how we lead and how we build our businesses.
Yes, and my experience when I work with a lot of high achievers is that they are not recognizing the deeper pieces because they keep themselves too busy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when it's like we're never taught how to be present with ourselves in a way where we can drop into presence with ourselves. There's one thing to sit still, and then there's another layer to actually go deeper, and there's another layer to be comfortable with any uncomfortable things that come up.
Yeah.
And it's exactly that. And for me, I know that it's there's a benefit in having a coach all the time, but I really want to build this capacity in people. I feel like it's so important to really know and understand and connect to ourselves, because this is where we are unstoppable, where we are unshakable, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
That strong foundation. So
no, but you know what? I completely agree with that. I mean, not to say you shouldn't have a coach, because you should. If you don't have one, you need one. Even Michael Jordan had a coach. But I do think you're right in the sense that the idea behind working with your coach is that you are enabled, you are equipped to be able to self-manage, to self-reflect. Like you talked about sinking into presence, that you learn how to do that for yourself, because your coach can't always be on speed dial. You need that in the moment, when you're in the meeting, when you're going in to have a courageous conversation with someone, when the vendor calls and the delivery is late. You need those moments then, not 2 weeks from now when you're going to talk to Tammy or I, right? And so we do. I mean, the idea is almost to build ourselves out so that, we leave our clients ready to do that work on their own and feeling confident and powerful that they can do that work in the moment they need it the most.
Yes, and it's like we're not meant to really do this alone.
Yeah.
Like it's about building our capacity, and this piece of it with high achievers is allowing ourselves to be held.
Yeah.
To receive. I mean, if anything, the commonality I see in a lot of people I work with is exactly they're actually pushing away and they're not open to receive in their energy. So energy is emotions. Energy and motion are emotions. And unfortunately, in the society we live today, we're not really celebrated to be vulnerable and to be with our emotional self. You know what I mean?
It's true.
It's true. And so that's the piece many leaders I work with seem to, it's not a strong point for many people I work with. And yet a lot of them, it's part of how they need to make decisions. It's part of how they let happiness in, feel fulfillment at every achievement they accomplish.
Yeah.
All those beautiful things.
Totally.
So it's so important.
Totally. No, it is. And I think for a lot of women that listen to this show, they are high achievers, right? And it is very challenging when you feel like you can't slow down, you can't stop. There's always a new mountain to climb. You can't you can't celebrate the win because there's a next level. That it is important to be able to build that capacity again, because you have to be able to do that for yourself, and you have to be able to lead people in a connected way. And that means being vulnerable. That the greatest leaders are able to step into vulnerability and connect with their teams and their peers in a really powerful way.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's like sometimes we've got to realize the mindset and strategies is not the only thing, right? There's more to us as human beings.
100%.
We're not human doings.
Yes.
It's really about being in the energy, so I know you get this, Lindsay.
Yeah.
So
I love it.
To share this and connect with you around
Yeah.
this.
No, I love it. Okay, so I want to ask you, you've been in business for yourself now for a while. What mistakes or missteps have you made, and what have you learned from those?
Honestly, I feel that I really didn't make any mistakes. Like when and I've been interviewed on a lot of podcasts, and I hear this question quite a bit. And I honestly feel that everything that has happened to me happened for a reason. If I look back at all the very painful, uncomfortable places, it's honestly served me. And so I have difficulty looking at these things like, oh, that didn't help me. The only thing I would say, Lindsay, is not believing and trusting in myself.
I actually love that. I really love that. And because I think that is something that is so common amongst female entrepreneurs, is we don't give ourselves enough credit. We don't believe in our skills and experience. We undersell ourselves. And when we really come to understand that, like you said, that's our saboteurs, that's ourselves standing in our way, that we can do incredible things. And so I think that's actually something beautiful to bring to the table. I also love that, your perspective is they're not actually mistakes. And that's a pretty harsh word, to be fair. They were all lessons, is what I interpreted from what you delivered. That these were all beautiful lessons, and they brought you to where you are today.
Yeah, and truly, like, the harder the lesson was, the bigger the gift was.
Yeah.
And exactly it. Like, it comes back to the how we're able to harness our power to step into our trust, our belief in self is the best way I can really say that. It's this part within ourselves that we think that taking the action and achieving it is bringing us more power. And I just recently ended working with a client in their 70s, and she was still doing that pattern. She was still, retired with good amount of money, and she was still wanting to do the next nonprofit. I should start a business, and she didn't know how to let it in and realize her power to just like decide to be happy.
Yeah.
And it takes power in that, And it sounds silly, but I really want to speak to that here,
No, you know what? I think you're right. And in all my work in human resources, people and culture over the years, the one thing that I truly did come to understand, you can't make people happy. So even as a leader, I've led teams in organizations. I lead a team now in my own business. I don't have the power to make someone else happy. I don't have the power to make them feel engaged at work. They get to choose. We get to choose every day. We get to choose happy. We get to choose to experience the joy. We get to choose to find the gift or the opportunity in every situation. And I think when you really start to embrace that, your whole perspective shifts. You're nodding, so I can tell this is Tammy, and I could go on about this all afternoon. But I think really it is about shifting the way you choose to receive the information and the experience that makes you more powerful.
It is. And to take it another layer is that this receiving piece has a lot to do with this place of compassion.
Yeah.
And honestly, many people don't know what that looks like because they've never, especially if you're from a childhood that didn't give that to you and you didn't have a model. Yeah. And it's like, besides maybe watching TV and maybe crying over a show, it's so interesting to help people drop a little deeper into that receiving and having compassion for self.
It's, you know what? It's true. How do you have empathy for someone else if you don't have the ability to empathize internally first? If you don't have the ability to put the hand on the heart and say, that was really hard for me because I really want to have impact. right? If you can't do that for yourself, how can you offer that to others in your business and in your personal life? And that, that's holding you back is the truth, isn't it, Tammy?
Yeah, it had held me back
Yeah.
considerably. I mean,
Yeah.
the whole healing cycle, like that was the
Yeah.
part that I was like getting stuck on. And really it's once I had compassion for these shameful parts of myself, it
Yeah.
really just opened up, and I realized my gift of the amount of love and compassion I have for
Right.
people.
Yes.
Like before I struggled to even say I love my kids. Like I
Yeah.
struggled with that at one point.
Wow. Yeah.
It was like a huge, like, I mean, I had, trauma over the regular side of things
Yeah.
on my journey.
Yeah.
And so, but that opened my heart up to really hold such a deep space for people, and to hold spaces for people where they didn't maybe want to look at that trauma, and to go deeper into the compassion. And I will even say this is the superpower.
Yeah.
Like compassion.
Yeah.
If we have compassion and forgiveness for ourselves throughout our whole journey, like we're invincible. Like we're powerful.
I love
just
that.
by like letting things go, and like, yeah, I'm awesome, and like that's okay, and you're lovable still, and that doesn't represent your worth.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love the way you put that. It really is a superpower when we can have that compassion and empathy for self and be able to then exponentially offer that to the world. That really is just a super impactful place.
Yeah, it truly is, Lindsay. And I really hope that lands for, our audience here as you're listening to it, and really take a breath into that, and just feel into wherever you can with that compassionate peace within yourself.
Yeah.
Just, it's important to be really honest. Like, can we connect there?
Mm-hmm.
Because that is probably indication if you're actually letting in your next, level, so.
Yeah.
Whew.
Wow. Well, Tammy, this has just been a remarkable conversation. And I hope all of you that are listening can pause for a moment here as we, sort of bring the episode to a close. And, as Tammy's invited you to do, sink into a little self-compassion. What do you need to acknowledge? What do you need to feel connected to for yourself? And I think for so many of us, it's that we really believe passionately in what we do. We want to help people. We want to have impact in our communities and with our clients. And that is a powerful place to be grounded in. And that, it's hard work. And we can acknowledge that we're always evolving. And so I hope you take a moment to do that. Take a deep breath, take a pause as Tammy's invited us to do, because I think that's just, it's just really powerful work.
Yeah. And just let it be easy.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be hard,
No. Heavens no.
Yeah.
We make it hard sometimes though, don't we, Tammy?
We do. It's just a saboteur. It's all good.
It's all good. Well, thank you so much for all your time, all of your really beautiful thoughts. You've offered us so much in this conversation, and I'm really grateful to have you on the show today.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Lindsay.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in today. I sure hope you enjoyed listening as much as I did hosting this conversation. And if you did enjoy today's episode, would you do me a favor? Would you give the episode a 5-star review and share it with all of your friends? I would really appreciate that. I've got a goal to impact 1,000 female founders, and with your help, we can really amplify this message. Thanks again for being a part of the show, and don't forget to connect with me and all of my guests on Instagram @HighVolt Leadership. We'll see you next Friday.